This is going to sound so rude, but like, if you want to be original in an accounting business, just answer the phone.
I love bookkeeping.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Mellisa Honan.
And thank you so much for listening. This series, we are going to be talking about something that I think you and I both will have a lot of input on, and that is originality in business. And today we're going to be kind of doing an overview of what it is to have originality in your business and why it's so important and how to achieve it. I think at my core, I'm a creative person. And so finding originality in business is kind of, it's a fun thing for me because I feel like being creative is something that I kind of relish in, but not everybody is like that. Mellisa, do you find that it's easy for you to have originality in your business?
Yeah, so I think that I'm also an anomaly when it comes to at least accounting businesses because I consider myself a creative as well. I originally went to school for fashion design.
I didn't know that.
Yes, in San Antonio, Texas. And I absolutely loved it. And I feel like I did it really well. And then I realized that I would make absolutely no money. And I decided to change my major to accounting. I was like, man, like, damn, I'm good at this. But I don't want to do this for free. So I switched to an accounting major. So I am a creative, but I know that a lot of people aren't. Especially in bookkeeping and accounting and taxes,
Yes.
We're not known for being creatives. We're not known for design. We're not known for, we're known to be boring, right? Like we're boring numbers nerds. How do we make that exciting? But how do we also keep it true to ourselves and original? That's really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, and I really identify with that because I am, like I said, I'm very creative. But I think a lot of people in this industry are going to be more of the analytical type of personality. And so I think the creativeness kind of and the originality can really come in on the business side of things instead of more and like less on the financial side and more on the business and marketing side, because you can kind of take your personal beliefs and your personal values and turn it into something that you're passionate about, especially if you have a niche. Which I know we've talked about niches until we're blue in the face. But I think that that's where your personal creativity and originality can really shine is in, on the business side of things and what kind of client you want to serve and what kind of business you want to have.
I think even the analytical type, the people that find this difficult, that feel like, oh, I don't really know how to do this, it's still possible. And my recommendation, like always, is, delegating, right? Is you can outsource to, a social media manager or hire somebody that's more creative than you that can help you pull these things out. So they're still your ideas. You just might need a little bit more of a heavy hand from somebody that it comes naturally to. But I think that this is something that everybody can tap into. You just might need to rely on people that it does come easy to. So it's not impossible if you feel like, no, like I'm not a creative. I don't do the colors. I don't do, the big fancy ideas. I just like to do accounting. I like to do it well. That's okay. You can still be like, or go above and beyond and, have original ideas and, implement new technology, have, a kick-ass marketing campaign. You just need to rely on having a good team to help you get there.
Well, and I think you brought up a really good point. I think a lot of the times originality and creativity, they're not mutually exclusive. I think you can be both. But I think a lot of the times when the word creative is thrown around, people think bright colors and amazing social marketing or social media pages. And it doesn't always have to be that. I think sometimes your creativity can shine with the technology that you use or the experience that you give your customers. It doesn't always have to be this like bright, shiny package. of graphic design, because I think that's kind of the misconception. I mean, I think that sometimes your originality can shine with the quality of work that you give, or
Oh my gosh, so
yeah,
true.
I mean, yeah,
I this is going to sound so rude, but like if you want to be original in an accounting business, just answer the phone or like respond to emails in a timely manner. Like guys, if you're not doing this, like you need to. But yeah, I don't know how many countless consultations I have with prospective clients, and they're like, yeah, I emailed this accountant and I haven't heard back from them. Oh, when was that? 5 weeks ago. It's like literally, it's funny, but in accounting, there are a lot of people that are kind of stuck in their ways, and coming in and just, focusing on like high touch client service is going to be an original concept for a lot of people. It's, being available, being attainable, making sure that your clients understand what you're saying. Think of all of the negative connotations that come with the accounting industry, and thinking about how you can just, rise to the occasion to fill in what's missing.
yeah. And I think, especially if you're in an industry like the one that we talk mainly about, which is bookkeeping and finance, I think I think it gets pegged as kind of boring and mundane. And I think adding your originality to your business is what gives it an element of fun, which I guess I say the word fun loosely because everybody has their different idea of fun. But I think it makes it more enjoyable, and I think it makes it more of an authentic experience for what you want for yourself. And ultimately, that's kind of the beauty of being a business owner, is you have the freedom of originality. And I think another great point to bring up when it comes to bookkeeping and accounting that can really set you apart from other companies is seeing your client as an individual and trying to meet their needs, and not just seeing a client as a number. I think that's something that's a pretty common complaint. I feel like when people are looking to get their books cleaned up, or, tax prep businesses, I think a lot of the times people feel like they're just a number, and they kind of get lost in the mumbo jumbo, especially I know during tax season, people are very last minute, and they're just trying to crank out these taxes and these financial records just as fast as they possibly can. And when you create those ongoing relationships and you view your client as an individual and not just a number, I think that that's something simple that adds originality to being a small business owner.
I definitely agree with you. And I think that it definitely relates back to, again, building relationships and really just trying to provide the best service that you possibly can is going to be better than anything else that you can do. I know a lot of new business owners, they get really worried. Well, I'm a new bookkeeper. I'm not the best. I've never done, a desktop to QuickBooks Online conversion before. I'm still uncomfortable with, payroll liabilities, and all of those things are really important, but they're not going to be nearly as important as building a relationship and just answering your clients' emails and phone calls and showing that you care. All of those things can be done, and you don't need a formal education for that. And so just doubling down on the service that you're providing will give you the social capital if you do make a mistake, right? So I think that's a really great point you made, Hannah.
Well, and I think that having that originality, it leads to a better customer experience for how you make people feel. When it's something as kind of, I don't want to say mundane because it's a very big deal, but when it comes to something as kind of unfun as finance and kind of like numbers crunching, when you add an element of originality and experience to it, I think it gives your customers a good experience with something that maybe they kind of dreaded before. And I think that's something that a lot of bigger companies, I feel like, miss out on that because it's such a numbers game. And when you lose that customer experience, I feel like you really kind of lose that element of originality. So my question for you is, you're a business owner. How do you maintain your originality? Or like, what are some steps that you take to set yourself apart?
I am always open to suggestions. And sometimes I think my team actually says that I'm too open to suggestions and too willing to make changes. But I never want to be that accounting firm that's stuck in their ways that hasn't changed their processes in 20 years. And so we're constantly just looking at what we're doing and is it still working? Will it work next year? And I think the biggest thing that I do is anytime we bring on new people to our team, we heavily rely on their feedback, right? Because they're not jaded. They haven't been around. They haven't gotten settled yet. So tapping into that, brand newness is such a valuable resource in basically getting an audit of your business. And if you're doing things that maybe could be done better. So I really love to get feedback from people that actually don't know my business, because then that gives me different perspectives.
I really like that. People that don't know your business and their perspective, I think that's a really cool, that's like a really cool idea, because then you can kind of have an unbiased opinion.
Yeah. Same if you have friends or colleagues from different industries that don't understand bookkeeping, that don't understand tax. It's the ultimate test to if you're doing it right, where you want your clients to understand what you're talking about. If you can get your family or friends to understand you and to provide feedback, and they have no idea how your business operates, it's just the ultimate test to if what you want to do is working. And they can give you, again, that outside feedback that is really just objective, because they really don't understand your business, and it's just extremely valuable.
Today's show is brought to you by Keeper, the one app to run your bookkeeping business. Keeper helps you get faster client responses with your own custom branded QuickBooks integrated client portal. Finally, you can say goodbye to those pesky spreadsheets full of uncategorized transactions. Keeper also helps you catch those embarrassing coding errors before your clients do. And with Keeper, you can generate beautiful custom reports that your clients will absolutely love to read. To find out more, go to keeper.app. That's keeper.app. Mention I Love Bookkeeping to get 20% off your first 3 months. Again, go to keeper.app to find out more. Thank you for listening.
I think I love talking about this subject because obviously I work for bookkeepers.com, and I feel like our company has such an element of originality and creativity, because there's lots of e-learning sites and there's lots of different classes you can take online, but a course that was started to teach people how to start their own business from kind of A to Z, I think that was a really original idea. And so I love talking about this, because something that I think I've learned working at bookkeepers.com is a way to create originality within your company is to have lots of different ideas and not really limit yourself to just one big product or one big service. Stick to your values, but don't limit yourself to one idea. And I think that's something that I really admire about bookkeepers.com, is that we always have lots of ideas and not just one product.
That is definitely what I've seen in the bookkeepers.com community. And that's something that I do in my company. I love it. I love just throwing ideas at the wall. I love stupid ideas. I love bringing up stupid ideas. I love just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I like creating a culture where that is acceptable and encouraged, and that everybody provide their feedback and there's not going to be judgment, right? And it's one of my favorite things to do, like literally in any environment. If you guys are going to be at BKX, dude, come talk to me about your ideas. Cause I love it. Just like brainstorming And maybe it's because I am a creative and because I do love like that kind of, almost like thinking like Mad Men. You think like the Mad Men, like copywriters sitting around in a room, like, writing down ideas and running them by each other, that kind of a thing. Like, I love that because how, you can, 15 bad ideas could have been the connection to that one good idea because you had to get through the bad ones first. So I love that. So I think having a lot of really great ideas is fantastic. And I think the importance with originality, but also keeping your brand intact is only implementing the ones that are the absolute best. And you need to have tons of ideas in order to find what the best is and to be consistent. So definitely creating a culture where it's acceptable to provide feedback and suggestions and to be heard.
Well, and I think having a lot of ideas, people can be afraid to fail. And kind of like what you just said, I think failing at like 15 different ideas, it can kind of lead to a breakthrough, even though it's shitty, to go through that and to be like, okay, that didn't work out. Like that wasn't well received. This, I should have done it this way. I think that can lead to breakthroughs for you to be more efficient in your business.
So true. And honestly, I think maybe because I'm in sales, right? And in sales, you're going to hear 99 no's before you get one yes. So I am just so used to rejection which is so funny because naturally I take everything personally, but I absolutely love having stupid ideas get turned down because I would much rather be that person than the person that has no ideas or is afraid to make any change or afraid to make any breakthroughs or being afraid to fail. Like I want to fail because at this point I have failed so many times, you guys. Like I feel like the only way that I can be successful is to fail a few times first. So it's like, all right, well, let me go ahead and just fuck this up real quick so I can do it right after.
Yeah. No, I still have just so many ideas to this day about just different, like, sometimes I'll get an idea in my head and I'm like, should I run with this? Should I do that? And I think about all the different ideas I had in my earlier 20s. If I had like taken it and run with it every single time, like fully, I think about the amount of money I would have lost. And it's just horrifying. Like if I acted out on every idea I've ever had, there's no telling what kind of shit show I'd be. But it leads to breakthroughs and teaches you things that you would have never learned otherwise. I think a lot of the times new entrepreneurs, and we see this a lot in our groups, is people get really intimidated, at kind of the comparison game. When it comes to owning a business and being a new entrepreneur, I think it can be really intimidating. And one of the biggest things you kind of have to drop is your ego and comparing yourself to your competitors.
I still do this.
It's hard. It's really hard. I think it's natural to like always want to compare yourself to somebody who's doing better because that's what you want. But
guys, I need to tell you how petty I am.
Tell me how petty you are.
And so we recently offboarded 2 clients because they were not a good fit to work with. One was our fault and one was the client. Okay. I'm not going to, again, I'm good with failure. One was definitely our fault. The other one, I was like, I don't want to work with this guy anymore. So anyway, they ended up going to the same provider somehow. Okay. They get referred to the same provider, whatever. Well, this morning, I have another client that he knows the 2 clients that left, or they're in the same community, right? And I get an email notification from QuickBooks that the same provider has been invited as an accountant user in his QuickBooks Online. So we all know what that means, right? Like, so I emailed the client and I like literally within 60 seconds, like I'm psychotic. And I'm like, hey, I noticed that you added this provider to your QuickBooks Online. I just wanted to check in with you and see if you're unhappy with your service. or if there's another reason that you're shopping around with different providers, I'd love the opportunity to address your concerns if you have any and find a way to, make our relationship work, whatever it might be. But that's like psychotic, right? And I really had half the idea. This is where, again, so I was like, okay, I should email the client. Yeah. I have half the mind to email the provider and ask him hey, do you just want my client list? What's, but I didn't. So that's, again, not following through on all of the crazy ideas, but, it's really hard to stay focused sometimes because it's we've made mistakes in the last couple of months. We had a period of rapid growth. Some quality slipped. Some positions needed to be changed. Some people had to leave our company. There's been a lot of change. When you have a big company, those things happen. You go through periods where it's a little bit harder, right? It's really hard to stay focused sometimes. I know I'm doing the right things, but seeing this guy come in and be like, all right, do you want a third one of our clients? I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to email the clients and ask them. But it is no matter how big. So even in the beginning, you got to stop comparing yourself to your competitors, but you're going to have to fight that urge the whole time. And, are they doing something that I could be doing? Sure. That's not my focus. I need to focus on what I need to be doing. I already know what I need to be doing, and we're in progress to do that. If you keep your head down and you keep focused on what you're doing, you'll be successful. That's what I've done for the last 6 years. I've messed up a few times. It's never taken me out. It always gets better. And it always feels like that this is the worst possible thing that could happen in the history of my business. And then it never is. Well, sometimes it is.
Sometimes
it
is.
It still gets better. Sometimes it is, but then it still gets better. And if I spent my time thinking about what everybody else was doing, then I would have been distracted from fixing what I needed to do.
I think something that I think like a great way, if you are someone, we've talked a lot about having all these different ideas and how do you create an original idea with all these different ones. But on the flip side, if somebody has a little more, has problems finding their originality, and it's tough for them to get that creative. If you're more of that analytical kind of left brain personality, I think a great question to ask yourself as a business owner is, what is missing in this field? What is the experience I want, and what is missing, and how can I fill that gap to better serve others? And I think that's a great way, because everyone can have a different answer to that question. And so I think that's, if you're listening to this and you're kind of struggling finding your originality in your business, I think a great question to ask yourself is, what's missing? As from a customer perspective, if you were your own customer, what would you want, and what do you think is missing from this industry? And I think that's such a great question to ask, because you can ask a million different people that question and get a million different answers.
I think that's so great. But I also think that the answer to that question is always going to be you, right? What's missing? Maybe you do provide the same thing as some other people, but you're always going to do it slightly different because you're a different person and nobody else is going to be you. And you might be the right fit for somebody just because your personality gets along with them. And I don't want people to get bogged down if they can't figure out, they're like, oh no, there's tons of accountants that, niche and painters or whatever it might be. There's still room for you, right? Because in most of these niches we're talking about, there's 50, 100, 200,000 of them in the United States. I don't know. I can't serve 200,000 painting businesses. So there's always room for everybody in the different niches that they're in. And it's just bringing what you have to the table. It's going to resonate with somebody.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that. I think to anybody who is listening, and especially for those of you who are newer to this industry, that's such sage advice, that you don't have to compare yourself, and you really don't have to look at your competitors as somebody who's better than you. It's just somebody who's different than you. And what you have to offer ultimately will resonate with somebody. But you kind of have to put yourself out there. Because if you don't ask, it's always going to be a no. And I think that's like a great way I think about in sales. Like if you don't take the risk, then it's just always going to be a no. I think that's such a good point. And that can be like the hardest kind of like hoop to jump through when you're starting a business. But once you do that, it gets a lot easier.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I find in a lot of newbies is, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not like calling anybody out. But there's a difference between being inspired by something and then just flat out copying and pasting. And so I think it's really important that when you are trying to say, create your website, you don't create somebody else's website verbatim, but you just slap on your branding. I know that it feels like that, but, just taking somebody else's website copy, it's intellectual property in a way, right? Where if I put my heart and soul into creating something and you just take it and copy it, that's not original. It's a shortcut. It might get you to where you want to go. But at the end of the day, it's really not right. So I always tell people you really need to change, just like with copyright law, you got to change like 20 to 30% of whatever it is that you're looking at, that you're trying to recreate. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to create things from scratch. There are templates available. There are other people that you can look at their website, see how they did it, take the copy, but just try to aim for changing 20 to 30% of it if you can. And that will be that little bit of you that you've added to it.
So you guys, if you're listening and you are struggling to find originality in your business, or if you have tips for how you find your originality, shoot us an email, and we always love to chat with you guys. So send us a message at success@ilovebookkeeping.com. Again, that is success@ilovebookkeeping.com. My name is Hannah Robinson.
And I'm Mellisa Honan.
And thank you for tuning in to the I Love Bookkeeping podcast.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow that biz, it's not as hard as it looks.